Welcome to First State Copites, a podcast for Delaware's Liverpool supporters and their friends.
Hey, it's episode 11 of season 4 of First Day Copites. I'm Paul, and I'm joined today by Hytham, who's in Chicago, and Sean, who is no longer yellow and is in Newark. Well, that will mean nothing if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or whatever you listen to your podcasts. Okay, here's how today's going to break down. Part 1, we're going to go reflect on the Ajax game, and we'll dig a bit deeper into how we thought Liverpool played. I've offered a few visual clues if you're watching on YouTube as to what I think we should be talking about in that conversation. In part 2, we're going to look ahead. We've got an international break, which is always like something else. But there probably are a few things to talk about, not least of which is Brighton's new hipster manager, De Zerbi, I think is his name. And then part 3, we'll look elsewhere. How bored will people be with Haaland? I'm bored already, frankly. But that's one question. We will also, Hytham and I, at least because we watched the game, we'll talk about Liverpool Women 2, Chelsea Women, champions of the last 3 Super Leagues, I think. 1. Very fine result on a weekend that Liverpool were denied the opportunity to win the same game in the men's Premier League. So let's get started on part 1. Okay, so I'll start with you, Hytham. It seemed really fitting that after one of the worst European results, we come back to play the team that inflicted the worst European result in our history, which was a 5-1, and I checked this out, in December 1966 in Amsterdam. And one of the 5 goals that Ajax scored was by a guy you might have heard of called Johan Cruyff. He was 19 at the time. But anyway, we didn't quite go that far down, but we did manage to beat the current version of Ajax 2-1. I would say there were, I don't know if there were 2 schools of thought, but there were definitely varying opinions on this, ranging from we're back to it's only Ajax, and I could see all sorts of things that weren't quite right, and let's blame Trent for half of them again. So Hytham, what did you take away from that game? Where are you on that spectrum?
So before hearing that, and of course I'm joking, but I thought our worst defeat was not the 6 or 5-1. I thought it was the 4-1 in Naples from a few weeks ago. Just joking.
So that's good news for you then.
No, I thought it was definitely different. I thought we played well. Even though we gave up, the goal, which is, to be honest, I saw it coming, just based on the way we've been defending. But I thought we played better overall. Obviously, as you mentioned, Thiago and Matip's additions were great. They were, yeah, exactly. Good call, by the way. I don't know. The one thing about that match, I felt at ease, to be honest, when I listened to the pre-match, the conference basically where they interviewed Matip and he was representing the players. And I love the guy. I mean, he just, I don't know, he kind of just bestows some ease and comfort in me every time I hear him talking, and he's quick to the point, and he plays like that. So the one thing off the bat is his just his dribbles and him barging forward. That's definitely one thing that we missed. And then it's not that we miss it, but no one does it as good as he does. Even when Gomez is playing in his position, he does it, but he's not really good at it. And then just I think and again you guys have heard me moan about Trent's defending at times, and I just feel like with Matip, I think he's the best one suited to let Trent do his stuff and go forward and all that stuff. And even when someone is supposed to fill for him, from the midfield, and he doesn't, I think Matip does the best job. So that was good to see. I hope he stays fit. Um, and forwards, Jota's he's not back to his best yet. I mean, this is the second time he's played. Um, but I felt something. I mean, his assist, for the first goal to Salah, that was I thought that was decent. That was awesome, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's coming back together. I know it wasn't gonna happen overnight. I did not expect it. I did not expect for things to turn around, but it was positive, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So lots to pick up on there, Sean. I do think it really helped having four players who weren't associated with anything bad that had happened this season so far in Thiago, Matip, you already referenced, Jota, you referenced, and then there was Simicas, who I thought had a really good performance. Few interesting things, and I want to go to you on this. Sean Rogers of the Anfield Raps review show was convinced that the person to blame for the Ajax goal, if anyone was, although he did say like that finish was spectacular and that was really hard to defend against. The one who kind of put us all out of shape was Simicas. He was in the midfield, and that meant that the back four was kind of out of shape when they were trying to deal with that chance, and that Trent was really, even though he was the one who got the blame on all the TV shows, was not the one who was responsible, because he was responding to people being out of place, which was Simicas, and that the Trent thing was really just confirmation bias of a idea that's now way too old about the Trent can't defend. I thought he actually defended pretty well in that game. One final thing I'll say, Sean, is the three people I spoke to and heard from who were in the ground were like, what? Trent was to blame for that goal? Where did that come from? Because I think if you were in the ground, there was really no sense of like he might have been anywhere near responsible for it.
Yeah, I mean that goal was, it was like I was just looking at the XG for the match was like 2.23 to 0.19.
Yeah.
They had one shot on target. We had 10. I think we had 10 off target. We just completely dominated the match, and they didn't really get another. I mean, that wasn't really even a good chance. He just, the guy just, what was the guy's name?
Kudos.
Yeah, Kudus. I mean, that was just a
It was a great
phenomenal
finish.
shot.
Yeah.
Nobody's stopping that. And I didn't really even think it was a great chance, but I mean, I think you can definitely fault Trent for it some, but I mean, to me, like this is what happens a lot of the time. It's not like Trent isn't at all at fault, but it's not all his fault either. I mean, the way I saw the plays, it looked to me like Elliott was actually supposed to track the runner. He didn't track him. And then it caught Trent off guard, and he got kind of stuck in the middle and didn't know what to do. And that's where Trent gets in trouble, is when something happens that's not supposed to happen around him. He doesn't necessarily have the natural instinct to know what to do.
Yeah.
But vast majority of the time he defends. I think you could say he's an above average defender for a fullback.
Can I just add one thing to what you described?
Sure.
Like Sean Rogers' sequence of events was Simicas created a problem, Elliott responded to it badly, and then that left Trent with a difficult decision to make.
But even still, Matip has it covered, and just the cross happens to go between his legs. I mean, that's not going to happen most of the time. So it was just, I don't know. I think people are reading way too much into that goal.
Of course they are.
I'm definitely more in the camp of we're back. Not entirely. I'm not getting carried away, but that match was just one of the most enjoyable to watch that I've watched in a long time.
Yeah.
Because we looked like we did when we were, hitting our stride last spring. We just looked a lot more comfortable. I think a lot of it has to do with Jota, Matip, and especially Thiago. I think Thiago was fantastic. That little dummy he did to let the ball go to Simicas was just, and the passing, he was just a joy to watch. And Yeah, I think Jota understands the positions to take up, and I think Darwin is still kind of learning that, and I think Bobby has a tendency to drop deeper. And I think Matip was definitely his ability on the ball and
Yeah,
ability to kind of advance. That creates a big problem for defenders too because they have to pick them up, and then it essentially leaves somebody else unmarked.
yeah.
So all those things contributed, but we just looked like Liverpool, and we haven't really, I don't think so far this season. So that was nice.
I no, I agree with I think everything you've said. Let's just do a quick one more round because there are a few other things to cover. Well, I can't repeat enough. I thought Thiago was pretty amazing and find it hard to understand like the so I think if you look at the number of games Liverpool won last year, when he was playing and the points per game they got versus when he wasn't playing, I think that should tell you a lot of what you need to know. Um, but I did think, and maybe we'll go here is Jota playing in the front line, and I've mentioned this before, where I think there's this weird disconnect between Diaz and Nunez when they play because it's not quite clear. Like it doesn't feel like very harmonious yet. When Jota played, it felt like it brought Salah more into the play,
Hmm.
and it just felt more knitted together than it had at any time this season, maybe apart from the Community Shield. Item perspective, I thought it was great to see Salah get a goal the way he got the goal as well.
No, I agree. I agree. And obviously he gives something different from what Diaz gives. Um, I don't know what it is. I mean, I felt like Diaz, albeit it was in the preseason, but I thought he turned the corner in that. What is it? The RB? No, is it RB Leipzig? Yeah, was it? Yeah.
Oh, where Nunez scored the goals? Was that
Yeah,
in the preseason?
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So, and maybe it was just, I don't know. I mean, he started, maybe he needs a penalty to be, every time he starts or whatever. But it just feels like his lost, and even when he gets like a good ball, not lost is the wrong word. He's just trying too much. Not nothing is natural to him yet. But with
So
Diego,
we're talking Nunez or Diaz?
sorry, I'm talking Nunez. And
Nunez.
and
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
the reason why I'm talking about Nunez
Yeah.
is, and maybe I said Diaz. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It just it feels more natural to have Jota back. Just that the
Yeah.
uh, the sync in between the forwards and all of that stuff. They're used to it, and it's what we're used to playing before Nunez came into the team. So I think it's easier to have that combination. In my mind, that's just my own opinion. But I agree. I agree. It was swifter, and you feel like Jota is not back to his perfect form yet, but he's getting there, and it was good to see.
Yeah. It really was. Sean, final thoughts on the game. I I do think you're right. It really felt more of a kind of normal performance. I mean, they scored first, which has been a rarity in even going back towards the end of last season. But it did feel like they controlled the game, and I think they did have one chance, Ajax, in the second half, which clearly was Trent's fault, being left with two people to defend on the far post. But not really. But I think overall the control they exhibited on the game was pretty awesome, and hopefully they can build on that going forward. And we'll talk more about that in part two and part three. I did want to just ask you specifically about Salah because we've talked about him. His numbers in terms of chance creation are just ridiculous. But it does seems like he kept picking the ball up like really, really wide. In this game, he felt like it was much more involved. Thoughts about that?
I think it has a lot to do with both Jota and Thiago. kind of taking up the positions that we need those positions to take up. Um, you know, I mean, it sounds kind of funny. I know we were doing some different stuff like tactically too, but I think having that solid base to attack from was kind of I think a big piece of that, and that's just Thiago and Fabinho in midfield. That's kind of what I saw. I thought we did a much better job preventing the counterattack, largely because like Thiago was kind of in the position where we needed him when they got the ball to counterattack, and then as a result of that, we were able to counter press, and it just seemed like everybody was kind of in their positions. I think. I mean, some of it's been tactical for sure. It almost seems like they're trying to move Trent further inside and allow Salah to move outside, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I think it mostly comes down to the fact that Salah is just looking for space to work in, and because our build-up play has been such a mess, he's not getting the ball in the right places. So
Yeah.
um, I think it has to do with the system kind of working the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
And a lot of that I think had to do with Jota and Thiago kind of playing in the match. And we can't forget to mention the winner, the Matip, the header. That was a pretty exciting moment because we had dominated. We dominated the match, and it was starting to look like one of those where like, God, we looked great the whole time. We were creating some good chances, and we just weren't putting it away.
Yeah.
And then we finally did, which again, like, kind of brought me back to you know 2019, the title winning season, where like we would just always manage to get the goal we needed, when we needed one, and felt like we kind of just wore them down. But yeah, I think that it's just I think it's a matter of players kind of being familiar with the system, kind of being where they're supposed to be, and maybe they tweak some things back to how we had been playing tactically a little more.
Yeah. I do think there was some of that going on. So we're going to end the part there, but certainly if you think about the season where we won the league, we won a lot of games, won a bunch of games at the very end. I don't think it's a bad thing that two of the last four games we've won with goals, like in the 80 something or 90 something minutes, in terms of like giving that belief that this is going to happen if we just keep on playing the way we're playing. So leave it there. We'll come back in part two and we will look ahead, maybe chat a little bit about the international break and what else is going on. Welcome back to part two of First Aid Copites. We are going to talk about a random set of subjects, but we're right now in the middle of the international break. Liverpool, for various reasons, will not have played for 4 weeks in the league. So there's kind of lots to think about. It does mean some of our players will be able to come back, but also means that some of our players will also be going out to play in internationals in various parts of the world. And maybe that's where we want to start. I'll start with you, Sean, because I know you messaged about this thinking this is no big deal. Jordan Henderson joining the England squad after a hamstring injury. Explain.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not that it doesn't worry me, but we have a bunch of other players that are just coming off injury that are going on international duty too. Like, I think Jota's going, right. I think there are a couple others, but I guess the other thing is that I guess I don't expect him to play very much. And I would hope that if he's choosing to go, like, he is not pushing his limits. So, and I guess someone had mentioned that something about him getting injured on international duty again. I couldn't remember him specifically getting injured on international duty. We've had a lot of players in the past that have, but I don't know that he has. Um, so yeah, I mean, it would be better if he didn't go, but I'm not overly concerned that he's going internationally. I think we should all fully expect that somebody's going to get hurt because every single time one of our players gets hurt when they go into international duty. So, hopefully it's nobody that's too critically important.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that person is who's got an international duty that we don't think is critically important. But
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they probably pretty much all are.
yeah. So so has Salah got an international duty? Because someone posted a picture I saw today of him like with Miss Egypt, which just seemed a bit weird, frankly. So hopefully he's not doing anything, is he?
They might be playing. I can't remember. I was looking at the fixtures. I think they're playing. I think Egypt is playing.
Well,
I just got one comment back to talking about Jordan Hendo. Basically, I think it was actually him that wanted to go. I don't know. This is just me speculating. And maybe he felt he's good and he just wanted to get some game time per se or something. Although he could have played with the under 21s like Artur and Fabio. But yeah, I don't think it was like, I don't know. Maybe he felt bad, for the Queen Pass and wanting to represent his country. I don't know.
Well, we could go down that path, but he certainly comes from a part of the country that probably has more natural kind of monarchist tendencies than the city of Liverpool. So
Yeah.
I do think there's something about him fearing about missing out on the World Cup because this probably is his last, right? He's very unlikely to play in the US in 2026. So yeah, and hopefully the decision has not been made out of emotion and has been made out of like actually he's good to go. But hamstring does really worry me. I
On
do
the
want to
on
go.
the Salah question, Egypt played 2 friendlies this week on Friday and Tuesday, so he may or may not even play in those.
Do they still have that same terrible defensive coach who used to be the assistant at Man United? Queiroz.
Probably.
Uh,
I'm not sure, but
I thought
yeah,
he'd moved on because that was killing us, right? Like him playing under that coach. But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's a shame they got to the final.
No,
And
I think they let him go. Because I think his assistant was the coach in the World Cup playoffs right
yeah.
after. Yeah, so it wasn't the Portuguese guy anymore.
Hmm.
Carlos
I think
Queiroz, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I think they let him go, and they let the second guy who took after him go too. So
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
it was a
hopefully,
horrible brand of football, but I mean, I don't know enough about the players, but supposedly the rest of the team really didn't have very much talent. So, maybe that's the way that they got to the final.
yeah.
I don't know.
There were at least two other Premier League players in the team, weren't there?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of good players.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't watch it closely enough. Like Hytham, you could probably speak better to it. But from what I remember, like reading, they were not one of the stronger teams, or not expected to make the final anyway.
they have a few talented players, but again, I think you guys nailed it on the head. I think it's just the way the coach played them.
Yeah.
And it was like, defend, 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 and boot the ball to Salah, and he'll try to figure out something. That was their strategy.
Yeah.
Pretty
It
much.
felt,
Yeah.
felt really not very supportive of Salah. A couple other things just want to touch on. So I thought it was fascinating today. Scotland beat Ukraine 3-0. They looked the bits I saw. They looked totally dominant, and this is the same Scotland team that lost 2-1. Like didn't look great to Ukraine in the World Cup playoffs. And it kind of makes you wonder how a season-long effort and then playing internationals afterwards, what that does to your players. Because they were without Andy Robertson as well, who arguably is their best player.
Mhm.
So we could talk about that, or we could talk about Brighton.
I'm not
I got. Sorry, Sean. I have one comment about this Scotland Ukraine match. So I was I had to leave and I wasn't able to watch the match, but I listened to the 45 minutes commentary before it
Yeah.
on I don't know, some English channel. And from the beginning till the end, right before the match, there was no mention of their missing captain. No mention at all. And I was like, I just wanted them to say, oh, he's injured. At least, he's injured. He's not going to be able to.
Yeah.
There was no mention. I was just like, what's going on here? So that was kind of weird to me.
Well,
But uh,
although it may have been advantageous, right? Because people have said for a while that the best two players are left backs, Tierney and Robertson. And if one of them's injured, it makes it easier then to pick your team because you don't have
yeah,
to fit them both in. But I did think it was significant that we're like only partway through the season and they look so much better, Scotland, than they did at the end of last season.
mhm.
Oh, final thing, Sean. We're going to play Brighton in 10 days, and they have just got the latest hipster manager. Is it just me, or do you remember when Klopp was the hipster manager? Was that when he just joined us, or before he joined?
When he was at Dortmund, he kind of was, and then I think Nagelsmann was for a while.
Yeah. Well,
Tuchel was for a minute, I think. Yeah, but I mean, and there, you're getting like, I mean, getting more like in the weeds. But no, this guy, I mean, it's funny that you say he's a hipster manager. I don't know what you've heard about him, but he sounds interesting. He was at Sassuolo, I think, in Italy for a
Sassuolo,
couple
yep,
of
yep.
years, and then he's been in Ukraine.
Shakhtar Donetsk.
Yeah, and
Yep.
apparently he was doing well in Ukraine, but like they've gotten all thrown off because of the war. And yeah, apparently he plays this like really interesting attacking style. So it'll be an interesting game. I think, given what I've heard about his style, I think it probably plays right into our hands. Um,
Ooh.
and he's a new manager. It's, probably not, maybe not the easiest system for people to pick up right away, from what I understand. But I don't know. Like, the best thing I can think of is it almost sounds like they play maybe a little bit like Atalanta. Um, so it's not your typical Italian style, apparently, where it's all defensive. But I think it'll make for a really interesting game. I kind of like it from our perspective, in that I think it should play into our hands if they come out and try to attack us. Um, Especially not being, kind of familiar with the system for very long.
Yeah, I do think some of those factors should fall in our favor. That he's got like I don't know, maximum of 10 days to work with the team to change whatever we're doing. Um, I part of me says maybe you should just stick with what they're doing and gradually over time morph it. Anyway, I see two scenarios. One in which like he tries to implement some new things and the team doesn't get it and we uh, stroll it. The other is that they build on how well they've been playing and actually make it really difficult for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
Brighton's got good players. I mean,
yeah. A couple of midfielders we covered, right?
mhm.
And they haven't got Neil Mopey anymore to hinder their attacking intent. So, just
He's scoring for Everton.
He did score
yeah,
for Everton. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
but they're the goals he scores, aren't they? I mean, he scores like goals that shouldn't be scored.
It was it was very interesting after Everton won that match. All the Everton fans went back into the Frank's the greatest. He's got us on the right track, and they got like thoroughly outplayed during the match.
Yeah. Well, there were a few weird games this weekend, and we can talk on some of this in part three. But you looked at the XG in some of these games, like West Ham. I think were I can't remember exactly what it was, but out they were much better than Everton's XG. Should have
Yeah.
been at least 1-0 for West Ham, maybe 2-0, best for Everton 2-1, in terms of the chances they had. Which I don't know if you saw the Tottenham Leicester XG. That was like 1.9 to 1.7 with
Yeah, yeah, and it was
6-2.
6-2.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
I think, I mean, obviously goals win games and goals kind of dominate your conversation. But honestly, Everton could not continue to do that against teams that are actually confident and in form, is my take.
I mean, their style of play, I mean, it looks like Sam Allardyce is in charge lately. I mean, and like they pass the ball around kind of nicely, but there's no end product, and most of the time they sit back kind of parked in their back third. So
Yeah.
It's it's hard to it's hard to understand what Frank's trying to do there.
Well, I think Cody and Tarkovsky have made them solid, but that doesn't necessarily make them good. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, before we end part two, Hytham, you mentioned Artur Melo, who this week has played at least 160 minutes with various young teams trying to get used to Liverpool's formation and get fit. What's your take on him? Because apparently we were sending him back to Juventus in January, according to some reports. Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest. I think I read the headline. Arthur Melo stars in an under 21 game. Of course, he's going to start an under 21
If he's not starting there, then we're screwed, right?
Yeah.
So I did not even read the story. But yeah, obviously you could tell that he is out of form. The few minutes he played. Oh, did he play the Napoli match, right?
And yeah, that was tough.
And,
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and it's because he wasn't playing before. So I'm not sure how long it's going to take him to get to a place where he's, performing or contributing. But yeah, I mean, at this point, he's just a body, and hopefully he's going to be a helpful body.
Yeah.
Moving on.
I just want to like I would say like I'm much more optimistic about the like his potential, for at least rotating some with Thiago than most people. But I kind of laughed out loud when I saw this tweet Dan Kennett today that he's got a screenshot of some article. It says Arthur Melo has actually gotten himself a physiotherapist, fitness coach, and nutritionist just to prove to Klopp and the coaching staff that he has what it takes to play for Liverpool. And Dan Kennett goes, if this is true, WTF has he been doing the rest of his pro career? It's like, I had the same reaction. Like, gosh, I like hesitated to believe all these stories about how he wasn't in shape, but it's like it really seems. I mean, he's out there playing with the under 21s. Like, he really just wasn't in shape. Like, and it seems like he's dedicating himself to it, but it's like, what have you been doing?
Yeah.
Like, you're a professional player.
Well, there was more than one suggestion that he was not the most professional person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, I think towards the end he was just a pawn on a chessboard. The financial transaction between Barcelona and Juventus, and I think that's what it was. He was the Umtiti of Juventus, I guess.
Well, someone did point out that what did they say? Name a Juventus midfielder that's excelled in the last 4 years. It was like, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And like Aaron Ramsey, I don't know, Vidal. I mean, there's a bunch of them. I mean, really isn't anyone.
Rabiot.
Yes.
He did show some flashes, while he was at Barcelona, but he wasn't really consistent even there.
Yeah.
So
It did.
I think there's definitely a player in there. It's just like whether or not we can get it out of him.
We'll see. See.
Yeah.
He's definitely a better option from midfield than Jay Spearing, though. I'll just leave it there. Okay. All right. So let's end part two. Part three, we'll come back and we'll talk about Liverpool women beating Chelsea, and we'll talk about other random stuff, including the ex-hipster boss of Brighton, Graham Potter. Hey, welcome back to part three of First Day Copites. We have decided to delve into, even though we were not playing this weekend for various reasons, there were 7 games, and the kind of one of the ones we've talked most about is the Leicester-Tottenham game where Tottenham thumped Leicester 6-2. The XG would tell you something different, and we were trying to diagnose why that might have been the score. Clearly, Richarlison was not the difference, Hytham. So I'm going to start with you. What did you make of that game? Because if you looked at it from a distance, you're like, wow, Tottenham are really rolling. Except if you watched it, it did not feel like that at all. They could easily have lost that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought at least the first, I don't know, half hour, 40 minutes or whatever, first half, Leicester showed some, courage, if you want to say, or something like that. And Tottenham was playing Tottenham or Spursy ball. They're not pressing. They're not. They're. Everyone is in the back, and they try to hit on the counter. And I'm just like, why? That's one thing I don't get about the Spurs. But we're talking about Leicester. Um, yeah, it was just, I don't know what it is. I mean, I hear when people say, "Oh, they did not make any signings over the summer," blah blah blah, but they still have a good team. I mean, they lost
Yeah.
Fofana, they lost Schmeichel.
Yeah.
Yes, they could have had a discussion from earlier. They could have had a better goalie, but I think defensively they still have decent defenders. I don't know why the what's his name, the Turkish guy, the ponytail.
So
Soyuncu.
you.
So true. He hasn't been playing. I know he's on the bench. So I feel like Rodgers is trying to jeopardize his own team. And yeah, he's just basically he's thrown in the towel. But yeah, the goals at the end, the 3 goals by Son, they were phenomenal. Although I think that the goalie is at fault for to a certain extent. I felt like his positioning was just awful.
Be careful. My son has a Danny Ward shirt. Just
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe he can learn how to do that trick, where you can use the iron to take off the name from the back.
By the way, he doesn't wear the Danny Ward shirt, so
Yeah.
we're not right. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just out of all the positions, I feel like that's their weakest link, the goalie, Danny Ward. But
It's
otherwise,
not
I think
Ndidi.
that no, Indeed was playing out of position for the first 5 or 6 games, 6 matches. I
Well,
think.
it felt like though the turning point of the game was Ndidi giving the ball or being stripped of the ball by Betancourt, the prolific scorer.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it was just it was a weird result. I just did not see it. If you had watched it from the beginning, and then I mean, if you had come in at the end and just looked at the score, you'd be like, "Hey, yeah, it's the bottom of the league versus one of the top 4," but it wasn't that type of match.
Yeah. Are they even any good? You might have asked watching Spurs. Because I'm still not sure. Right.
They still play that dumb, defensive football, and which I don't get. They have 3, maybe 5 actually, really good offensive players, and their midfielders, they're okay, but they have some good midfielders on the bench too that I don't see them using. I think they can play better football at all.
Yeah.
I don't think actually the next match, after the international break is going to be an interesting one when they play Arsenal.
Oh,
I
great.
think that yeah, that's going to tell a whole lot about both
Well,
teams.
I'm hoping for 4 red cards at least in that game.
Yeah.
So I think the answer to your question is Antonio Conte. If you were asking a question about like, are they any good? How? Because I think the way they're playing is like we don't really care about the midfield, and we create chances because we like basically let the other team we suck the other team into believing they're controlling the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just it's a weird. I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like with that amount of great players that you have and the type of football they tactical football they play. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding it.
Antonio Conte. So I'm going to switch topics for you, Sean. I'm going to go to your favorite subject, which is the shenanigans at Chelsea. They hired who we believe is a pretty decent manager in Graham Potter. along with a backdrop. I mean, I didn't even want to. I don't have the energy to talk about Todd Bowley and whatever he said, but it does feel like they're either like they're totally on track now, or this could go badly off the rails. Where are you on that scale?
Well, just first, real quick, I want to say, like, I checked the betting odds, and if you want to take a risk and bet that Brendan Rodgers won't be the next manager sacked, you can get some really good odds on that right now, because based on this, it looks like he could go any day. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't already, but no, I mean,
actually, can I just so I was going to say, but I do want to talk about Chelsea. It is kind of weird if they were going to do that, why they haven't done it already, right?
That's yeah. I don't know. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. You know, maybe there's a sly bet out there. I if I had to guess, they might be trying to secure, a manager that they really want.
And he's not available.
I think it's money. I think they're out of money, actually.
Well, yeah, you're right. You know what? Yeah,
it.
you're right about that, Hytham.
Yeah.
It could be just that they don't have the money to. But no, so I really like Graham Potter, but I don't think this is a very good situation for him to be going into. I think he's a really good manager, but he hits me as more of a team builder, and that's just not the situation he's being given there at Chelsea. Like, I don't get the sense that he's going to be given time. Because realistically, he should get, at least 18 months there to sort of show what he can do. And I just don't think that's going to happen. They seem like a bit of a mess right now. I mean, Tuchel had lost the dressing room, and a lot of players seem to want out. And you got the whole ownership mess, and the owner, Bowley's upset everybody with his All-Star game suggestion. It's just
hey, we in America love that suggestion, don't we?
No.
I didn't think it was like a terrible idea, but the reaction would tell you otherwise. So yeah, it just because the community shield is like, yeah, whatever. But I guess people, some people still are inclined to keep the community shield around.
Well, at least it's your team playing, I think, is the point about that.
Yeah.
As opposed to like North versus South. Anyway.
I think it's more of a know your place kind of thing. Like, you're the new guy and you're walking in trying to tell everybody what to do. That just doesn't go over well. And yeah, it continues to be a mess there at Chelsea.
Long may it continue.
Yeah, waiting to see if more of these tax investigations ever catch up with them. Probably not. But
the what?
Yeah.
No, actually, I seriously don't. What?
Well, there's just a lot of financial investigations going on in the news lately. Man City's one of them.
Oh, okay.
I
was thinking of like Trumpian activity, but
well, there's that too. But there's just a lot of that going on, and even I think in the UK there are a lot of questions being asked about Russian ties and property and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, long may it continue. I hope it's a long, painful fall for Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Potter got a new haircut for his first match.
Oh,
he
did.
Yeah, he did, and a new jacket, I think.
Did he shave his beard?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
Or trimmed it down, something like that.
The Guardian cartoonist had him portrayed as some like British sea captain, which I thought was hilarious.
So apparently, yeah, the Pulisic has his new book out, talking about how Tuchel, he was misled by Tuchel, and you just get the sense that there have been other rumors of other players kind of going after Tuchel, and gosh, like it just seems like such a mess there right now. Hopefully they don't manage to pull it together.
So it's embarrassing that Pulisic has to do this stuff just because he's no longer the #1 American player in Europe. Like, where do we begin? P. Falk, Rayner, Weston McKennie.
Yeah.
Adams.
So who's I think the best one might be was it Musa or Villarreal? He's really good.
Okay.
He's playing really well.
Is he in the squad? He's in the squad.
Yeah, he's been a pretty regular starter for them recently.
for Valencia since
Yeah.
last season. He plays for Valencia.
Wow.
Although I don't watch La Liga by the way, but I know.
He usually plays in the midfield, and when they have him and McKinney, and they have there's a solid midfield there to build on. So
Maybe we should do an episode on the US national team, which I clearly can't participate in because apart from knowing that Pulisic is not the best player on the team anymore, I don't know much.
Rangers have a good player too. I forgot his name. He's a forward.
This is classic. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
yeah, Aronson. The only problem with doing the national team is I would have to talk about because of Berhalter's and his crazy lineup switches every game.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've done enough on that tangent. Let's wrap things up. And Sean, you can join in if you want. But last weekend was the first game of the Super League season, Women's Super League season, and Liverpool, newly promoted, played against the invincible Chelsea, who have won the league 4 years in a row, I think. The coach Emma Hayes is very impressive. Really, really like her. Quite like our coach too. And the Reds beat them 2-1. It wasn't, it was definitely not Jurgen's Reds, but it was really quite a solid performance. Hytham, where would you begin in describing people who haven't seen the game, haven't seen the Liverpool women play? How would you begin by describing that performance?
I thought they were not that great in the first half. I mean, it was just awful to see them concede a penalty in the first minute.
Yeah.
So I think that just kind of took over the first half, and Chelsea was controlling the match, and the second half they came out and they really just frustrated Chelsea. Chelsea could not do anything. Kerr was frustrated. She could not, although we talked about it, but it's the goal that she scored and was deemed offside. It was an iffy offside.
It was.
Yeah. So I thought they played well. They adjusted well in the second half, and even after Chelsea conceded the penalty in the second half. I think it was around the 66 minutes, 65th minute, or whatever. And he made more. He brought in is it Forney?
Furness.
And Forness.
Yeah.
She played more defensively, I thought, than her typical frontline role.
Yeah.
So he made the adjustments that he made after Liverpool leveled the match, which ultimately led to the second goal.
Yeah.
I love Stengel. I think she's one of the hardest workers out there on the team, but they all work hard. And in just her cool when she is taking penalties is just, I don't know. You don't see a lot of that because she takes like one step or two steps or whatever, and then she kicks the ball, and just so calm and yeah, it was great. I mean, to be honest, so I mean, just looking at the players and the level, Chelsea by far has better players than we do, which is expected. But I thought the women's performance was gutsy, and they deserve the win.
One of the differences I would observe actually is, having watched them a few times over the years, is the formation looks so much more solid. So they didn't have is it Van Sander, the Dutch international?
Yeah.
And they clearly lost Leanne Kiernan
Yeah,
early
that's
in
a
the
big loss.
second half. But they looked really, to use a word we've used a lot about the men's team, they looked compact, and they looked like they were constantly looking for outlets, which is how the second penalty came around.
Yeah.
Where Stengel, right, did a really good job protecting the ball, and I kind of love the protestations because Buchanan was the one who fouled Leanne Kiernan, right, and then she like protested that she got the ball with Stengel in the penalty box, and look at the replays, and she clearly did not get the ball until like Stengel was on the floor.
No, she actually fouled Stengel herself. So Stengel actually the one that caught the ball in the break went around the first player and went around the second player who was Buchanan. So she tried to catch up with her, and as soon as they got into the box, she tried to get the ball and she actually got Stengel.
Yeah.
So it was all created by Stengel. So just she gets the credit for all of it. Kieran was out by that time, by the way.
Yeah.
She
was Kiernan
was already-
fouled by Buchanan? Because I kind of missed the moment.
I don't know who actually fouled her, but
Oh.
it looked pretty bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look at.
Well, and today they've said she's going to be out for a month or two. So
that's it. It felt like, because the way I think they didn't stretch her off, but she was like on the leaning on the shoulders of
yeah, they showed her at the end, and she clearly was upset about whatever had happened. Yeah.
Actually, I thought I had heard that she had surgery on her ankle. She could be out longer than that.
I think she may have to have surgery, is what they said. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and the Dutch forward, I don't want to mess up her name. She has an Achilles issue, so I'm not sure when she's going to be back.
All right, so big game coming up on Sunday. If you listen to the episode, please come out and watch it. It's on Paramount Plus, and we'll certainly be showing it at our pub. But against Everton lost. Love to say that we might be in a better shape than Everton. Everton have a new coach, and they've lost a couple of really good players. And I think we've added a bunch of players that make us look very solid. I don't know without Kiernan and Van Sander how effective we're going to be scoring goals, because Stengel historically is not like a prolific striker, but I think we have a good chance. It's at Anfield. Could be a crowd of 20,000 people, which would be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other match, City lost to Villa.
Yes. Anytime City loses, that's work.
And the reason why it was interesting to me, because Rachel Daly, remember she played left back for England. Remember she was tortured by the
not a great left back, right? Yeah.
So she's actually playing as a forward for Villa, and the coach was like, that was the only problem, or one of the biggest problems we had last year. We could not score goals, and she can score goals, and she went in and scored 2 goals for them against City. So I thought that was funny.
It's like a Ted Lasso move there.
Yeah, absolutely.
but I'm still going with City losing. That's still the headline. Although Rachel Daly did look quite good. So
yeah, she did.
Okay. I think we probably should wrap it up. Any final thoughts, Sean?
I don't think so. I appreciate your talk about the women's team. I'll have to try to catch some of the games. I don't know if I can make it to the pub on Sunday, but it is interesting. They're in the Super League. Yeah.
This might be the last chance to see them, because I think the Paramount Plus is only showing like 1 or 2 games a weekend, so really will depend on who we're playing. So,
gotcha.
U.S. national team plays tomorrow. Am I right?
I'm not sure.
Friday at 8 Eastern.
Yeah,
8 Eastern.
I do hate international breaks.
8:26. We're playing Japan in the morning.
Japan?
I guess it's in Japan.
No, it's in Cologne, Germany.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, that would be the women's team playing in Japan, is it?
No. It's just
What I do love about our show is we're so well researched.
So the U.S. is playing Japan in a friendly in Germany. That's interesting.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think because of it's, I don't know, they're just trying to put like Brazil are playing all their friendlies in Europe too.
France, yeah.
So they're trying to put everyone in the same proximity, I guess.
Okay.
That's
We
my
should-
guess. I don't know.
We should probably
It's
leave
what-
it there. So Liverpool play Brighton in 10 days' time. Who knows what that's going to look like given that Brighton have a new coach. Pretty sure that's not the only game Liverpool are going to play this year where a new coach is going to show up. I think we'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm guessing we'll be back in 2 weeks after Liverpool play Brighton. Thanks so much, Hytham. So good to see you. Thanks, Sean. And we will leave it there. If you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with a friend. Follow us at First Day Copites on Twitter. We only tweet and retweet from sources we think are credible. Finally, music is courtesy of Hypnotic. They're a Welsh electro-pop band, and you can find them at https://hyperfollow.com/hypnotic. Hypnotic is HYPENOTIC. Thanks so much to them.